This is part 2 of section 3.6. We've talked about how to negate a conditional. Now we're going to talk about De Morgan's laws, which is how do we negate an and, how do we negate or. And if you look at this, what happens is this not symbol gets applied to each one, and that's true for both of these cases, and the sign in the middle flips. When we learned this in chapter 2, we were talking about a converse of two sets, and our property, one of them was A union B complement, and that was equal to A complement union B complement. And then you had the other version where you're looking for the negation of a union or complement, and you would get the complement of A intersected with the complement of B. And you can see that, our symbols are slightly different, but this means everything that is not, and this would mean everything that is not. So they're really, really very similar. Okay, so let's work a couple of problems here where they want us to write a statement that is equivalent to this given statement. So we know we're going to use De Morgan's law because the directions say so. And so let's just look at what we have. I have an or between two statements with a negation in front. So I have this case right here, which means I'm going to take the not and put it on each one and flip that. So this is equivalent to not P and not Q. Okay, because this not was already there, and when we do use De Morgan's laws, we put a not on each one. Now we know that a double negation, just cancels out. So this is not P and Q. You don't have to write out this step if you see it, and by the end of all of this, you probably will. But that is technically what is going on. Okay? So, see if I can slide the paper somewhere. All right. It is not true that Florida and California are both peninsulas. Okay, so let's look at this. We have two statements. Florida is a peninsula and California is one as well. And rather than write out this every time and getting things really long, I'm just going to say that my P value, my P statement is Florida is. And understood the peninsula. And I'll say Q is California is. And then when we negate those, all we have to do is to put a not in the phrase and we'll be good. So let's try to figure out what this is here saying. It is not true, so that's a not, that Florida and California are both peninsulas. It is not true that Florida is a peninsula and Q is as well. So I have a classic De Morgan law here. We don't even have to change letters or do much work. It is right here. And we end up with not P or not Q. And now we would rephrase this. Florida is not a peninsula or California is not a peninsula. Okay? I don't think it's that bad. Okay, now this one can be a little bit tricky. We know from the directions that we are supposed to use De Morgan's laws, and that means we need a not in front of something. I need a not in front of an and or an or. And I don't really have that right here. Okay, but I do have an and here with some negations in there. And I do know that, you know, this is I can switch some things around maybe, or I can work backwards here. I can get a not in front of this. This is a conditional. If I use the contrapositive, we know it's equivalent to this, so it wouldn't change anything. But it would give me a not in front of this whole thing, and it would give me a not in front of a P. So I'm going to use contrapositive. And I'm going to switch this around to not Q, and not R. So if this, then not P. So that's the contrapositive. And now this side's pretty easy, but right here we do have a classic De Morgan law here now that we have a not in front of an and. So remember, we're going to end up with double nots on these, which just makes them the regular statement. So when I used De Morgan law, I changed the sign of this one. Okay, so that is Q. Flip this one, or change this one, so it's now R. So it's Q or R. So if that, then not P. That is an equivalent statement. If he does not cook, his wife or child does. In this case, we have three statements. We have him cooking, the wife cooking, and the child cooking. So let's just say, we'll say this is P, the wife cooking is Q, and the child cooking is R. So the first thing I want to do is to write this out in symbols so that I can try to figure out what's going on here. I have if he does not cook, so if P, then notice the comma. The comma says that whatever comes after, that's going to be grouped together. It tells you it's a parentheses. His wife or child cooks. So this is Q or R. Okay, now again, we don't have a not in front of an and or an or, but we can do that by switching it around by using the contrapositive again. So this would be equivalent to not Q or R, then not P. Now let's use De Morgan's law right here. We still need to keep it in parentheses because it has to be done before we do the conditional. But this is equivalent to not Q, flip that, and not R, then not P. Okay, so let's phrase this now. Okay, this says if Q, the wife does not cook, and his child does not cook, comma, so we can keep the parentheses, then not P. Well, P was he does not cook, so the negation of that would be he cooks.